hopefully we can meet periodically a couple times a month and learn from each other. Everyone's opinion is important. We respect each one of you. I love to hear different perspectives and experiences. Danny and I are both really awesome, but we don't know everything, right? We're all learning. Nobody has all the answers. So please don't hesitate to share.
I almost know everything. Give me just a couple more months. Yeah.
If you would just start looking at the internet, you would know it all. Danny earlier told me he doesn't look at the internet. Like, what?
Google search. Ask Google.
Right.
Thank you, Angelina.
So this was kind of an awakening for me. Participate in a way that's comfortable for you. So in these webinars, I used to say, just interrupt, yell, interrupt, and just speak out loud and share your perspective. But you know what? Sometimes you're just not in the mood, or that's not your style. That's cool. That's why they invented the chat feature. Go ahead, and if you have questions or comments, plop it in the chat. I'm going to be monitoring that, and Danny will as well. And then again, like I said, any type of humor is welcome. Just throw something out there, and I promise I'm easily amused, and I will laugh at it. And then Danny, I just added this recently. Where are you? There you are. I think we both have a tendency to over-explain. And so I'm curious if there's something everyone can tell us, that some kind of signal that you can let us know, hey, we get it. We can move on. Would like to share something for this webinar.
Yeah, feel free to interrupt us at any time with questions or thoughts. No problem.
What was that? We used to use the word sold to, like, okay, you can stop talking now. Elmo, enough, let's move on. Or what was yours? Heard?
Heard, yes. In the old days of my restaurant life, heard is a restaurant term. You just say, someone's talking, say, heard, got it, one word, I'm out. Let's move on.
Thank you. All right, so let's jump in. We are talking about retrospectives. So the whole idea behind a retrospective is, hey, we're going to look back. Let's see how things were, pain points that we had previously, in the goal being we want to move forward and do better next time, continually improving. So why? Who can tell us why? What is the core? If someone was in an elevator and said, hey, Ravi, what's the point of retrospective? And you just had a few seconds to explain it, what would you say? I just picked on Ravi. He's like, what the heck? So I just saw your name. Danny, what would you say if you had to, like, boil it down?
Yeah. So, well, retrospective is an opportunity to.
You see that? They say they put like flags up for like different countries, but it's always there.
I think I hear Subi. Are you there? Oh, there she goes. So retrospective would be an opportunity to look back and review and focus on what worked, what didn't work in the last iteration of a given project. It's an opportunity to build on the successes and also to improve those things that work. Oh, hello.
So cute.
We've got some.
If there's background noise, I'm muting you. It's nothing personal.
Some kiddos.
Yes, absolutely. Make things better. How's that? Make things better. 3 words.
Make things better. That's it.
Make things better. All right. So, I feel like we have to give some tribute to our Scrum guide here. 3 points that you can read right for yourselves on scrum.org. We want to inspect how things went in the sprint. And I love this part, and I forgot about it. People, relationships, process, and tools. Taking those 4 different factors. We want to identify what went well in order to make improvements. And then at the end, we want to, hey, let's make a real concrete action plan, how we're going to implement these improvements. Rather than just, complaining and talking about stuff, let's actually do it. And let's make sure we do it and we see improvements and so forth. So step 1, I don't know who, I was going to do a poll. Actually, I'm going to do it right now, Danny. I'm curious who we have on our line. What is your role currently in your organization? So I've just opened up a poll. You should see a little window pop up. And if you go ahead and click on which role you're in right now, and if I don't have one listed, you can go ahead and put other.
Surprisingly, a low number of dog whisperers in the group today.
I'm a dog shouter. I can't vote. Oh, it shows I can't vote.
Yeah, yeah, nor can I.
And you can vote for more than one thing. I think I set it up that way. This will help us kind of tailor this webinar for our audience.
Yeah, very interesting. So definitely a large percentage of Scrum Masters or coaches or trainers in the group today.
So thanks, Peggy. So if you don't see the pop-up, it might be behind one of your other windows, but feel free to plop it in the chat as well. Agile coach. Oh, if you don't have a browser, thank you. A business analyst. I used to do that. Thank you. You've got 4 people. I'm going to go ahead and end the poll. Let's see what we have. Damn. Sharing results. So I will share it here. We have 29% are Scrum Masters or Agile coaches. We have a mix of other people. Fantastic. Great to know. So for my Scrum Masters and Agile coach, it's not just for you, but a lot of the emphasis on creating a very effective retrospective is facilitation. This is the Scrum Master's wheelhouse, right? This is your moment to shine, if you will, is the retrospective. So I put a little if-then statement. If you want to have a really effective, productive retrospective, in my opinion, 90% of it is the facilitation. Daddy, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, well, I think that's a great point. And facilitation is about, and as we saw on the other slide, working with people and trying to communicate in a way that is enabling folks to talk about what happened, not just pointing out for yourself what might have gone wrong, but creating a healthy environment for people to speak up.
Oh, Christy, yes, we are recording this as we speak, so no need to take notes. And then my good friend Hunter will send out a link. All right, so key steps. Hey, facilitators, this is for you, kids. What are you gonna do? Here's an overview, then we're gonna dig into each one of these steps. One, you gotta do some prep work, right? You gotta prepare the information and the container for your retrospective meeting. Once you jump into that retrospective, you're gonna set the stage, right? You don't wanna just jump in and say, okay, what went wrong last time? You wanna prepare a very fertile ground for an open, honest conversation. Then we want to generate as many ideas as possible. And then you want to take all those and we're going to refine it and reduce it to the key nuggets, things that you want to work on for the next sprint. And then devise that action plan. And then at the end of the meeting, you're going to close the loop and make sure everyone's aligned. So first, the pre-meeting prep work. What do I need to do as a facilitator? One, I highly suggest that for each one you create some kind of excite statement or a unique motivating invitation. Maybe you put a picture on it or a little video that you share to get people excited. I know I've done a lot of retrospectives. They tend to be just like, okay, you're just checking a box, you're phoning it in. As a facilitator, you can help encourage a little more excitement, so to speak, and involvement.
Variety is the spice of life. Yeah, if things become, if it is a situation where your retrospective is being presented in the same way over and over again, then you run the risk of losing new feedback or inspiring your people to reveal something that you might not otherwise know. It falls into a little bit of a by rote situation, and you can kick it off by making it a little bit more creative on the front, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And then, like we said earlier, everyone has different styles of communicating. Some people aren't comfortable just, especially if you're maybe new to the team, just like speaking up like, hey, this is what pissed me off. Sometimes you might want to have pre-work. Hey, why don't you, on your own, type out a list of things that you think we can work on or improve, or maybe there's some reading material. So think about that you might want to let your teams be aware of. And then you probably know I've got some Scrum Masters and Agile coaches and other people who have had retrospectives. There's a lot of different ways and tools and tricks out there on the internet, Danny. That's a thing that we're using right now.
www.
Yes, a lot of books out how you're going to do your retrospective. What tools are you going to use and techniques. All right, next we're setting the stage. So if you start your retrospective, we're gonna set the stage. So we're in this next 45 minutes, the goal is we're gonna do a retrospective on retrospectives. So first you're gonna reconnect to the mission. Why are we here? What are we trying to accomplish? Any data you have, I think is very valuable. If you have it in, I used to use Rally or Jira, say, hey, you know what? Last sprint, we committed to 55 story points and we accomplished 12. We're not going to yell at the team. We're going to just use that as a conversation and understand what happened and why. And then, of course, rules of the road. Like we did earlier in this webinar, let's talk and make sure we all understand that this is a safe space. Everyone's opinion is important, and any other tidbits, so we come to collaborate together. Now, we talked about how you're going to generate all these ideas and then you whittle them down to the key things. I found this little video yesterday I want to share. It's only a minute long. Hopefully you'll all be able to hear it. I'm going to go ahead and play it. It's about convergent thinking versus divergent thinking.
Imagine you have a problem that you need to solve, and you're looking for innovative solutions. In this moment, there's a good chance you'll choose one of two cognitive approaches. In 1956, the psychologist J.P. Guilford coined the terms convergent thinking and divergent thinking to describe these two contrasting approaches. Convergent thinking is linear and systematic, while divergent thinking is more web-like, focusing on the connections between ideas. Convergent thinking narrows down multiple ideas into a single solution. On the other hand, divergent thinking expands outward by generating multiple ideas, often thinking like a hacker and using materials in original ways. Here you treat barriers as design opportunities. Convergent thinking tends to be more focused, while divergent thinking is more flexible and iterative. Convergent thinking is analytical and focused on what's best. By contrast, divergent thinking is more open-ended, and participants are encouraged here to take creative risks, even if some of the ideas might not work. Convergent thinking asks why. Divergent thinking asks why not. Now, it may seem like these two approaches are competitive, but they actually go hand in hand. Often teams will use divergent thinking to generate multiple ideas, followed by convergent thinking to analyze and narrow down the ideas, and then later you'll use divergent thinking to come up with fresh perspectives, followed by convergent thinking yet again in this ongoing cycle. Both are necessary.
All right, so the thought this is applicable for a lot of different things, not just retrospectives, getting all the voices heard and all the creative ideas out. This is how we innovate. This is how we truly make positive change. Now, my good friend Daniel is going to present a demonstration on one technique that he came up with and I'd never heard of in order to do what, Danny? Why don't I'll let you introduce it.
Yeah, no problem. So what we've got going on here, we're going to do our NextUp's Time's Up, and for this exercise, I'm going to ask my colleague Jill Stott here to participate, as well as Steve Cooper, who is our fearless leader and CEO of NextUp Solutions. For this exercise, what we're going to be looking at is it's really a game about distilling down or refining. How do we find the cut through to get to the meat of the situation? How do we find the things that are really valuable when we're facing a problem? So in this instance, what we're going to do is I'm going to act as the Scrum Master and facilitator, and we're going to discuss the topic of, in the times of COVID, the pros and cons of returning to an office setting. Jill is going to be Jill is going to be con. She's going to be in the con column of returning to an office, and Steve is going to be discussing the pros of returning to an office. Now, the way this game is going to work is we're going to have a conversation where we're going to discuss over the course of 90 seconds. Jill, 90 seconds, that's what we decided on. And we're going to put it all out there in terms of the points that we're going to make. And then we're going to shrink that time into 60 seconds. But the task for all three of us is going to be to exactly as much as possible have the same conversation that we just had. Then we're going to shrink again to 30 seconds, to 15 seconds, and to 1 second. The idea being we're going to find what is really important to us. So it's really about distilling, and breaking down, and what bubbles to the top and becomes the most important topics. So with that being said, Jill, is there anything you'd like to add to that?
Sounds good.
All right. So Steve, we've got you here.
Yes.
Are you doing the timer, Danny?
Let's have a timer. Yep. Jill, do you have that handy using your internet?
Internet.
Yeah. So we're going to start the clock and.
Okay, tell me when to go.
All right, 90 seconds and go. So here we go, beginning here, and we're going to remember everything we say going forward to repeat it. Jill and Steve, thanks for joining us. We're going to talk about whether we should be moving into a physical office space. Steve, what would be your argument for moving into an office space?
Well, there's nothing like physical proximity, Danny, and the chemistry that people have at the water cooler. They're networking, they're intersecting in ways. Just because you're walking by someone's office and happening to see someone physically helps you get a lot of things done. We also have clients, and clients oftentimes want to come see us. They want to see and feel that we're a real company, and that is accomplishable by a office. And we also have stuff. We got to store our stuff.
Well, let's see, Jill. Jill, what have you got to say there, Jill? How's your feeling of con? Why would we not move into an office right now?
Offices are very expensive, and even when this COVID is over, there's probably going to be another pandemic. Plus, when you have this online, all these amazing tools, we can reach a lot of other people within the entire world. If we isolate ourselves to one location, we kind of miss out on that. Plus, it's super convenient for me and for people who have lives outside of work. Because we can
and you're in Utah. You're in Utah, and we're in Virginia, so that also would make it difficult.
Hire people from outside of Virginia, absolutely.
That's right. Well, thank you both, valid points, and that's going to be now, the challenge here, everyone, is we're going to have as much of the same conversation as we just had, but now in 60 seconds. So the challenge for Steve and Jill and I is we're going to try to get the same points across, the things that were most important about what we just said. We're going to do it, but in shorter time. So Jill, if you would start. And here we go. So here we are to talk about the value of moving into an office space. COVID-19, pros, cons. Steve, what are your arguments for?
First, Danny, networking can't replace physical chemistry. Meetings are more productive. Clients need to see a symbol of what we're all about. They need to touch us, feel us, come meet with us, have lunch with us. And plus, we got all this stuff. Where are we going to put it?
That's a fair point. And Jill, rebuttal, why would we not?
All right. Virtual is more inclusive. Virtual is more opportunity to contact more people. It is less viral.
Sure, less viral. Then geographically as well, Jill, you are in Utah and we are in Virginia.
Cheaper.
That's right. And cheaper?
Yes.
We're good. 4 seconds. Yep, that's good. So there we go. Well, a little retro on that 60 seconds. Steve, well done. Jill, let's get that ginkgo biloba.
I wanted to win. Okay.
All right, so now we're going to go to 30 seconds.
Okay, tell me to start.
30 seconds and start. Pros and cons of being in an office space. Start.
Water cooler, physicality, chemistry. Clients need to see us, feel us, touch us. Meetings, very productive. Plus, we got to put our stuff somewhere.
Plus, we got to put our stuff away. And Jill, what would you say would be a con of being in the office setting?
It's expensive. It is not inclusive. It makes me not want to work in Virginia because my family's not there, and it's all about me.
That's right. And also, geographic is a good point. You're in Utah, we're in Virginia. So, all right, excellent. Now, folks, we're going to move down to 15 seconds and 1-5. And ready, set, go. Office setting, pros and cons. Steve, go.
Water cooler, chemistry, client stuff.
Brilliant. And Jill, rebuttal.
Global presence, more opportunities.
Geographic Utah.
More opportunities.
All right. And now we're going to go from 15 seconds to 1 second. So here we go. 1 second on the clock, set and ready. 1, 2, 3, go.
Chemistry sucks.
Thank you. A round of applause. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Jill. So that just is a demonstration, and feel free to use that in your own retrospectives. The idea being, as you could see, and Steve very eloquently, very skillfully did it. Jill, I think you did well as well.
Oh, that's why he's the CEO.
But as you can see, when you have more time to talk about it, then it's easier to get distracted. It's easier to lose sight of what you're actually talking about. As we pared down, you could see Steve really hit the bullet points of what he was trying to say. So when we distill down and we get just the hard, concentrated points of what we're looking for, then we can move forward. Then we can move forward and we can put those things into practice.
Absolutely. Thank you, Danny. And how this would translate to a retrospective?
Well, so that's a good point. So in a retrospective, if we were to take this and we're working on a real problem, part of what's interesting is, again, what pieces do we find are most important to get a point across as we are running out of time? So we're able to see, okay, if we had a problem in our last sprint, well, we started with 90 seconds. This is what we all talked about. It came up again. It came up again, it came up again, and it came up again. So we lost some of the other points that were being made at the beginning, and now we would see what is really important. Also, through repetition, obviously it's a hard ask to completely remember and repeat exactly what you said in that first 90 seconds. But what becomes revealing is through the repetition, you might find new ideas. You might find new ideas as you're trying to recall the point that you made. And so you might find sort of supporting details to an argument you're trying to make that you weren't aware of in the first iteration. So it really helps to kind of break you out of patterns as much as it's asking you to repeat in this exercise. But it's really helping you to your brain to kind of look at a problem from multiple angles, but also by repeating it, you see its importance.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Danny. Yes, all those things. Apparently this is a thing they do in improv. So thanks for sharing. So time boxing, the lesson here that I'm taking away, Daniel, is time boxing facilitators is your best friend. Not just, hey, here's our 1 hour chunk we're going to use for the retro, but make smaller time boxes for each conversation that you have. And like Danny said, it's going to whittle it down to the key points.
That's right. That's right. Whittle is a key word.
Whittle.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Whittle.
Yeah.
Yes, because I've hosted and participated in many a retro where it's just like we're just talking and I'm like talking about my dogs and It's hard to like focus unless you have those tight time boxes. Get a timer, a physical timer, so we can see that. It keeps us on tasks. All right, thank you. So let's talk about generating insight. So when I had the retrospective, again, we want to use that, start with that divergent thinking. We want to get as many ideas out from the group that we can. And we want to make sure we don't have group think, right? I've been in retrospectives where there's a guy named Dave and he's like super awesome star developer. And he starts it off and says, hey, we did awesome. And then where was, yeah, we did awesome. We don't need to have a retrospective. We want to hear all the perspectives, both negative and positive. So the first thing, and it doesn't matter which order you do this in, I'd love feedback, whether you think, hey, should we talk about all the things that went wrong first and then went right, or vice versa, or a combination of both. I don't think it matters, but I would love to hear other opinions from this group, because I've been going back and forth and I'm not sure if there's one right answer. So let's just suppose for this demonstration, we're going to, again, the topic we're going to discuss is retrospectives. You want to have a prompt, something that gets people in that mindset, right? Maybe some powerful questions like, hey, what prevented you from producing more value in this last sprint? If you could change one thing, what would it be? Here's just some ideas. What's keeping you up at night? This starts to get the juices flowing and percolating. Maybe these are some prompts you could send out before the meeting to get them thinking about it. What are some processes that could be holding you back? Sometimes we are people who are doing the work aren't thinking about process. Those are things that we can actually go in and make some key changes that will really affect our productivity. So what we're going to do now is we're going to try this. I'm going to use a tool called Mural. Hold on, let me find it. So if you're not located in the same office, which none of us are right now, this is one of the collaborative whiteboard tools that you can use. It's about 140 bucks a year. It's free for a couple of months. And I'm going to give a link to everybody in the chat. Go ahead and click on that and you will be added as an anonymous user. And I've got 3 different panels set up. I'm not going to go and explain this tool like I usually do in my training. So what we're going to do on the first hand side, we want to get all the voices heard. What's that?
So Jill, this link is actually, it's not allowing us to get in anonymously. It's asking us to join, which I know is not.
Oh, here, try this one. Thanks, Danny. That one should work. Go ahead and click the bottom one. Yep. Everyone please do that if you have a laptop that you are able to do that with.
And as you click that second link, there's no need to add a name. You can just enter anonymously. So no need to sign in or add a name or anything of that nature.
Yep. And unless you already have an account, then it'll show your name. So they call you they have a visiting penguin. So here's the instructions. So, a lot of times in our retros, we just have everyone, hey, just shout it out. What went wrong, or what are some pain points that you had in the last sprint? That doesn't always work for everybody. Some people like to think about stuff and write it out and maybe have it be anonymous. This is a great way to do that. So let's think about retrospectives in general. Retrospectives that you've been a part of, either as a facilitator or as a contributor. What are some things that went wrong? What made them not effective? Go ahead and you can just double click right here in the bottom and it will create a sticky note and just type in each item that you think was a drawback or what went wrong in a retrospective. And then plop it there and just, we're gonna time box this puppy. I'll give you, 2 minutes? And get as many as you can.
If anybody is struggling with the mural, please feel free to speak up, or you can chat with me directly and I can guide you through using the tool if you're having any challenges. But yeah, this is a great tool, and I'm glad that Jill brought this into the webinar today. So this, for those of you who aren't familiar with this is something that we use often in our virtual training across all of our classes for students to collaborate from distance during their distance learning. So feel free to take this to your own work setting, and it's a really flexible tool. I mean, you can do anything with the whiteboards and kind of create, choose your own adventure. All right, so nobody yet has got anything of what is right with the retrospective.
We don't want that. We're not doing that
Here
yet.
we
Buddy.
go.
No, we're not doing that
There
yet.
we go.
Daniel.
Oh, we're not doing that yet. We're not doing that yet.
We're not doing that yet. We're
Jill,
focusing just on what's wrong with our retros.
we're not doing that yet.
We're not doing that yet, at least for this session. That's another thing I want to talk about. Do we do it all at the same time? But this is how we're going to do it for this one. What are the problems we're trying to solve with our retros? 30 more seconds. These are great. Thank you. All right, cool beans. Okay, we're going to come back to this in a minute. Thank you for sharing your thoughts. Next, we're going to, let me go back to my slide deck. Next, let's talk about some positive things in your retrospectives. What are some things that you've done that make them more valuable and more effective? What are some tools you may have tried or techniques, some facilitation items that have made it like you walk out of the retro like, yeah, we just conquered the world and we've solved all the problems. So we're gonna go back to our mural board. Think. If you haven't already started, over here in the middle, go ahead and add some sticky notes. You can scroll in and out, by the way, if you're like, this is so small, Jill, I can't see it. You can scroll with your mouse or hit Control+. And go ahead and just take 2 minutes and think about all the awesome things that you've tried or know about or read about that will make more effective retrospectives. My time review. Bam. And if for some reason you can't access the mural board, feel free to plop them in the chat. I'll put them on the board for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is great. What's interesting is that there are people are talking about the content, sort of troubleshooting the actual work, but then a fair amount of people are talking about inclusiveness and the people element of a retrospective, which is also just as important as talking about the work. If people feel validated or if people feel like there's a sense of openness, then they're more likely to share their ideas.
Snacks. We never had snacks at my retrospectives. I love that idea. Virtual snacks. There needs to be virtual snacks.
Virtual snacks. Yeah, that would be fun, just as an idea, just to say, hey, you're at home, I'm at home, go to the kitchen, come back with something. Maybe it's a guilty pleasure. Maybe you bring a pint of ice cream out with you, during the retro, right?
We can eat as much as we want. All right, we got 1 more second. And all right, fantastic. Thank you, everybody. So now we've generated all these awesome ideas and insights. Next, we want to go to the convergent thinking, where we want to take all of this stuff and, like Danny said earlier, distill it. There's a lot of different ways to do that. For this demonstration, we're going to use some very common and easy techniques. One, my boss calls it affinity mapping. I call it group similar things, and then dot voting. So I'm going to go back into our mural board here, and we're going to focus on, first of all, whoops, I can't see, I'm going to have to move this over. Okay, So first, I have all of these different ideas. And if I was in a physical location, I would take the sticky notes and I would just group them by categories. On the snacks, boring, see what's similar, I get blamed. And if you would like, if I like, ew, they've got a little thing in the way. Playing out personal battles. What does that mean if anyone wants to share? Only Brian talks. So I'm just going to group these. So this is what the facilitator would go and group these. And if somebody has an opinion, boring. Boring seems to be a common theme here.
Mm-hmm.
People not talking. Need a bigger board. People don't want to, yeah. Unmotivated, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, we have enough meetings as it is, right? And so it's challenging to have a meeting that's talking about what might potentially be going wrong. That's like a double whammy. So, so yeah, I think that's a really great point. That one of the maybe arguably harder things to do, which is to have the retro. If we make that in and of itself a little bit more enjoyable, it's again gonna help open people up.
All right. So I need a bigger board, man. All right, so I've tried to group these a little bit, and some are isolated, and that's cool beans. So we've got snacks here, like the not having everybody talking. Mama, did you have something to say, bud? And then to focus on what went wrong. Hold on, this is in the way. People just don't want to do it. They're not motivated. Absolutely. Fatigue. You know what? I thank you for this comment. I'm the same. Like, can we just, no, I just want to go crawl up into my bed and take a nap. It really is too boring. It's not helping. It's not productive. All right, let's do some dot voting here. You each get, I'll give everybody 2 dots, and you can use these icons. If you look on the left-hand side, and there's a little star. You can click on one of these and you can add a little dot that way if you would like. And you have 2 dots, or you can just draw something and just put it right on the cards itself. And that's what you're saying. Hey, this is the biggest pain point for me when it comes to retrospectives. So pick 2. Make sense?
Mm-hmm. Sounds good.
Oh, yeah. Oh, little fishies.
All right. I think that works. There we go.
Oh, I should have time boxed it, huh? 30 seconds. 30 more seconds.
30 seconds.
Time box is your
30
best friend.
seconds remain. All right.
And 30. Fantastic. So it looks to me, Danny, and anyone else on the line, that we're kind of consolidating here on the lack of participation from everybody on the team.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of goes along with just irrelevant discussions.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Sound about right? Probably the 2 biggest ones. Okay, cool beans. Now let's do the same thing to whittle down our awesome things we like about retrospectives, things that have worked. Go ahead and do the same thing in this middle pane and select those. You have 2 votes. Take 30 seconds to do that.
Great. There's not nearly enough dots on the snacks post-it. Everybody, snacks. Snacks is what is effective.
I love the word snacks. Snacks. It's funny. one of my old jobs, our break room was called Snacks. It just had an actual label called Snacks.
See, distillation. Break it down. Get to the heart of the matter. Just snacks.
Snacks. Oh, they didn't have any snacks in there, but oh well.
Well, then we need to talk about that. So then maybe we need to go back and just change it to room. Just
Room.
room.
We had ice water though, so that was good. All right, so 10 more seconds, and oh, this is fascinating. And I was sorry, this is kind of messy. This is kind of our first time doing something like this, but thank you for participating. So excellent. Looks like here we've got a lot of emphasis on the objective and fair facilitator. Having that makes a huge difference. And collaborative problem solving. I'm hearing a recurring theme. I wonder if anyone else is about collaboration and having everyone involved and how it be fair and open. Mm-hmm. What are some other common themes that everyone else is hearing? Sorry, looking at the chat from Ravi. People not sitting across from each other are more ready to use personal bias. Ooh, biases. Absolutely. It's so, the human factors is such a key component for good or bad in our retrospectives in particular. And something we're designing a future webinar on that specific topic. Okay. So now that you've distilled down in a retrospective, hey, here's the key things, here's the problems that we're trying to solve, or here's the things we want to add, the positive things that we want to keep doing, then we make an action plan. So looking at our board here, I know it's a little bit messy. What would be our takeaways? What in your next retrospective, what 1 to 3 things would you want to implement in your next retrospective? So here's the facilitation potentially. You say, okay, based on the beefs that we had and the things that we love about, in this example, our retrospectives, we think if we do X, Y, and Z, so, and someone said this earlier, hey, you don't want to come up with a list of 10,000 different items. I did that once in our group and we ended up doing none of them. So pick the top 1 to 3. And then that's what you're going to experiment with. And it's not saying, hey, we're going to do this and everything's going to be awesome. It's, think of it as an experiment. I love this picture. We're going to try it out. Hey, we're going to do this different process, or we're going to do more testing up front, or whatever it is. And then we're going to come back in the next retrospective. Hey, did that work? Do we want to keep doing that or not? And then have some way, how are we going to test this hypothesis? How are we going to verify that this is adding value, or is it just another thing to check a box? So thinking about how you're going to do and model your next retrospectives. If you don't mind just shouting some stuff out or putting them in their chat, based on the conversation we had, I know this has been super fast, what is something you want to try doing different in your next retro? And go. How do we make it less boring? How do we make it more inclusive?
Shout it out from the rooftops. I'm actually going to go ahead and let's see what happens if I unmute everyone here. So feel free to speak it up.
Good idea. I didn't know we had that power. I should have known that.
Actually, yeah, unmute all.
Mutify. We have a quiet group. They're probably like, oh, it's Friday. Just want to relax.
I don't think the unmute all worked.
It did not. So for whatever reason, that's not working. So feel free to unmute yourself if you'd like to speak up and as Jill said, shout from the rooftops.
What, based on the what went wrong, I'm not sure I should say anything.
Only Brian does. I assumed Brian put that in there, but maybe it was. It's true though.
No, Brian.
There's always like one loudmouth, and a lot of times it's me.
Have some games to break the boredom. I see. I am looking at the mural as well. Some folks are posting within the mural. So yeah. So whoever, you know, if you've typed in the mural your action plan, feel free to talk up or speak on what you've posted.
I love it. Or hey, thank you. I forgot I had this board here, dude. Picture-based learning. I would love to know more about that. What does that mean?
What? Picture-based learning?
So this is Rajesh here. So I put that sticky over there. So basically what picture-based learning is more of visualization technique where you asked the mood of the people, right? So they're like I use techniques like prisoner or your visitor or your shopper, stuff like that to get their mood kick-started, and then uh, use survey-based questions. Basically, ask them what topic they're interested to discuss rather than you throwing out them at that point of time. Give them enough time to think through what do they like to discuss as a team, and then put those kind of pictures. For example, if they say, okay, it's tools, so capture some pictures on the tools, and then ask them within these tools, do like a 5 whys or kind of a fishbone to narrow it down, like convergent and divergent stuff on that particular topic. That way, it's like a picture. You set up the number of tools, like 5 tools, and then ask them choose one tool that they like.
Fantastic. I love that. Thank you, Raj. That's, yes, the more visual you can make it, the better. Pictures, memes, this is cool. Like even in this tool, you can go ahead and add images. How did you feel about last sprint? Maybe put an image. There's a lot of different ways to model that. Engage all of the different senses of our retrospective participants. What else? What else? Some other thoughts. Games, there are a lot of different games. I like to start with a short game that's kind of an icebreaker. If you just go into this thing called the internet and Google icebreaker games, even this mural board, there's a lot of different things you can do, or something similar. You don't have to use mural. Excuse me.
Create psychological safety. Yep.
How do we create? Absolutely. And how do we do that? That's easier said than done. Psychological safety is, for those of you who aren't aware of it, it's kind of my new big thing that I am always preaching. Hey, I want to feel comfortable that I can admit mistakes maybe I made. I want to like say, hey, here's the problem we're really having, even if it's not cool to say that, and I'm not going to get punished or embarrassed or ridiculed for sharing that information. That's when real change happens, when every voice can say, hey, dude, the emperor is not wearing any clothes. What are we going to do about it? Until you surface those things, your retrospectives will just be checking a box and not really making positive change. And if I can, I'm just yammering here, Danny, please feel free to jump in.
Yeah, I think one of the ways too, because in looking back at the retro or the board here, you know, somebody says leadership speaks up all the time, or leadership speaks first. And in terms of creating psychological safety, you know, accountability is a great way to create psychological safety. If the person facilitating or if leadership is speaking, to be able to say, hey, let me identify some of the areas where I can improve, that, you know, that I can help. That will help create a safety net for others to say, okay, look, we've got it started with somebody already taking accountability and mentioning room for improvement. That'll give me the opportunity to speak up. It's much easier than if somebody's just pointing the finger and saying, tell me what you did wrong. You know?
Nothing, that was perfect.
Right.
Yes, we don't want to blame culture, absolutely. And someone said that, I always get blamed. And that is where we have to have that strong facilitation, right? It's really, that is the key. There's a whole bunch of documentation on how to facilitate, but it's understanding the room and making sure all the voices are heard, having multiple techniques for providing information. I used to work with a group and they were brand new. They were not co-located and they weren't comfortable speaking up. And so I would have them email me stuff. Hey, here's some things, some pain points. And then I would present them as a Scrum Master. And that helped really move the needle as far as hearing all the voices and making real change.
This is a good question, Jill. Raj says, how do we address this if teams see all improvements from retrospectives are for leadership?
Oh, that's interesting, Raj. So a couple of things on that. Thank you. Here's some retrospective rules 101. Retrospectives are for the team. Sometimes I've worked with leaders who are like, hey, I need to be in there. I need to see what's going on. And then I want to report, say, well, what did you guys come up with to make sure you're doing Agile right or whatever. That completely defeats the purpose. That will affect the psychological safety. You're going to just say, hey, we did great. Everything's really wonderful. And it'll be a waste of an hour. So we want to make sure we communicate that often to our leadership. If there are things that bubble up that we need their help, absolutely. We go, oh, you know what, here's this roadblock we had, Mr. Leader or Ms. Leader, and here's what we would like you to do to help us remove that. Other questions or thoughts, feel free to just put them in the chat or just unmute yourself and let us know. And I love that, praise your accomplishments. It is so easy to get in, like, let's just, we're just complaining. It's just a complaint session. Here's everything we did wrong. I love that. Praise the accomplishments. You know, make some kind of a physical or a virtual, here's a little badge or a reward or stickers or treats or whatever. Good job. We so seldom remember to celebrate what we did right.
Hey, Jill, thanks for answering my question. I have one more maybe thought through this group or have your insights into this question. So a lot of times my team, they are good teams. They're trying to be great teams. They have a lot of action items that comes with the retrospective. They know what to do, how to do, but they're not taking their steps to actually incorporate those items. They say, okay, my sprint goal is my priority than the retrospective items. How do we address this?
Yes, absolutely, Raj. And I've been the same way. I've done the same thing. We commit to this and I forget all about it till the next retrospective. So a couple of thoughts, and if anyone else has some thoughts, please join in. Actually put it somewhere, whether it's in your backlog or it's somewhere you can see it every time you have your stand-up as a reminder. A lot of times we just forget. If it's something that's going to take time out of the day, literally put it in the backlog, communicate that to your business partners so they understand what it is. And it might take some time away from the user stories, but explain the advantage of it. That's my suggestion. Any other thoughts?
Yeah, I think too, if you are creating retrospectives where some of the things I said, they're, you know, a traditional retrospective might be boring. An action plan here was have some games to break the boredom. If you're attacking the retrospective differently each time, then it will help foster a stronger memory of the things that you talk about. So if it is, again, if it's this sort of going through the motions process, it's easily forgotten because, oh, here we are again. We're just going to sit in the same chairs. We're going to listen to the same person talk, and we're going to listen to the same failings again. Then, yeah, you walk out of there, you're not interested in remembering any of the action items that you've come up with. But if you are engaged in games, or if you create a different way, I mean, sort of hearkening back to the exercise we did earlier, where, you know, just spicing things up with a game to help you remember. So in this case, obviously, when we were talking with Steve and Jill, you know, they broke it down, 90, 60, 30, 15. We were talking about location for Jill was a big thing. Steve was talking about in person. We remember that because we addressed it in kind of a unique way. So yeah, creating games, creating anything that's going to activate the imagination is going to help people remember the action items.
That kind of pulls it all together. Thanks, Danny. And Mohammed had, and this thing kind of goes along with what Raj says in the chat. He says, what if in each retrospective, the same things come up time and time again? And I've had that happen. Two things are happening. One, we forget or we just aren't actually actioning on it. We're not doing it. We're not addressing it throughout the sprint. Or at least in my experience, it might be something outside of the team's control, which means, hey, Scrum Master, this is your opportunity to manage out, potentially could be some harder conversations with maybe management, maybe our business partners, to see if you can actually move that roadblock, so to speak, at least a little bit. Oh my goodness, time has gone by so fast. Oh my, we need another hour. So just to close the loop, before you end your have everyone dismissed during your retrospective, you want to validate that we've met our objective. Hey, did we come out with 1 to 2 things that are actually something we can do and we will do it? How will we be accountable to it? How will we ensure that we at least do an experiment and see if it works? Are there any last questions or last things or opinions that maybe we didn't get out in our previous session?
Mhm.
All right. Sorry, I know it's 1 o'clock. We're going to stay on for a couple more minutes. If there's other questions or comments, we would love to hear them. Otherwise, I hope you have a lovely Friday. We will be sending out a link to this recording. If you have any other questions or thoughts about future webinars or in retrospectives, please share it with us. Oh, thank you. And go ahead and send us an email, LinkedIn me, that sounds bad. Send us a LinkedIn and let's continue this conversation.
Yeah.
This isn't something we can do in 1 hour. Yes, Ravi, did you have a comment?
Yeah, for those of you, you may see I just added some things to the chat window there. So one is a link to, you can read up on our next webinar, which is going to be Friday, July 24th. It's going to be, we're going to tackle the subject of innovation, how to foster it and squelch, well, actually, how to foster it and not squelch it. Yeah.
I get squelched a lot on my innovation, so I have a lot of stuff to talk about.
But you can also, I also put nextupsolutions.com. You can visit us there to see a full list of our upcoming courses or read about our course descriptions, our public trainings that we offer, our certifiable classes from Scrum Alliance, Certified Scrum Master, Certified Scrum Product Owner, also Kanban University, Scaled Agile. So take a look. You can also send any inquiries. I'm going to put this in the chat as well. Send any questions or inquiries about training to logistics@nextupsolutions.com. So feel free to reach out and email us there as well. But yeah.
Thank you so much for everyone's participation.
Yes, thank you, everyone. Round of applause for Steve. Thank you, Mr. Cooper.
Thank you, Jill and Danny.
But yeah,
nice job, guys.
Oh, thanks, Brian. Yeah, if anybody wants to have a retro on this webinar, we'll be around for the next 10 minutes or so. Tell us, well, I think what we learned is we should all go to the kitchen and get a snack so we can talk.
We should do that. Like, and maybe we all do the same kind of, well, that's not fair to say. Everyone do chip snacks. I don't know.
Everybody gets a chip.
Not everyone likes chips.
But yeah, thank you all. Thank you all for playing. We appreciate it. Let's see, I'm going to turn off the recording now.